But first, we go to Flinders University and find out about some assassins that can track down cancer cells in your blood and even blow up silicon chips. Sounds like science fiction, but it's not. It's the amazing world of nanotechnology. And Patrick Emmett has been out finding out a bit more.
If money can burn a hole in your pocket, then this must be it. Well, the chips in stolen credit cards anyway. Filmed in ultra slow-mo, this is a type of silicon called porous silicon, and it packs quite a punch.
It's a quite unique explosive because, first of all, its power far exceeds that of TNT.
But while it might sound explosive, it's the same as the silicon chips found in almost all our modern electronic equipment. Scientists Andy Plummer and Nico Volker have used nanotechnology to transform the benign material so that it blows up when triggered by a laser or an electrical charge. And that opens up a whole world of possibilities.
You could now envisage the possibility of protecting data that you have on these devices, for example on a laptop, by placing an explosive silicon component on the chip that you can trigger when you want to. When your laptop gets stolen, and it doesn't mean that the whole laptop blows up, but the component that holds the data that you don't want somebody else to see would be destroyed.
To get big results, you have to think small, very small. The surface of the silicon has been etched with acid and filled with a mixture that can explode. To do that, you're going down to atoms and molecules, and that's what nanotechnology is all about.
Each of your hairs on your head has a diameter of about 50,000 nanometers. So a nanometer is incredibly small.
To put a number on it, a nanometer is 1/1000th of a metre. The team is working on the project with the Defence Science and Technology Organisation, but the technology could have a much more peaceful use, like the slow release of drugs in the body and detecting cancer cells. And just down the corridor, a different type of nanotechnology is doing just that. This isn't blood, it's gold, and Lee Hoffman and his team are using it to attack leukemia cells.
Those gold nanoparticles are attaching to antibodies that seek out malignant leukemic cells. Once they've attached to those leukemic cells, we irradiate the cells with a laser. The laser heats up the gold nanoparticle and causes the cell to rupture.
It sounds awfully messy, but because it's happening on a nano scale, it isn't. In fact, it's quite the opposite, and the hope is that one day patients will be able to have their blood cleaned of cancer cells and then returned to their body. It already happens with limited success with other technologies, but this gives doctors another anti-cancer weapon. Flinders Medical Centre is involved in the research, and while it might be 5 or more years before it's used on patients, they're already getting promising results.
There is very little damage using these methods to other cells that are present, whilst chemotherapy and radiotherapy kill the healthy cells as well as the malignant cells. And so far as the patient is concerned, they wouldn't feel as ill as they do when they're on chemotherapy or treated with radiotherapy.
Basically, the next thing we have to do is use these attachment points.
From the smallest things in our bodies to the biggest body in the solar system, nanotechnology also promises a revolution in solar cell technology. This is a model of what's called a carbon nanotube, though of course in the reality of nano world, these tubes are so small you can't see them.
Carbon nanotubes were discovered about 20 years ago now, and they have some really very, very special properties. They're incredibly tough and resilient. They're incredibly bendable, even though they're really tough. But the main thing we're actually interested in is the fact that they're actually really, really good conductors of electrons.
That ability to conduct electrons is why Joe Shaper is so interested in nanotubes. The solar cells we use now are at best only 25% efficient. That means 3 out of 4 electrons they produce are lost. But if carbon nanotubes can be used to make new cells, that efficiency could rise to as high as 90%.
We certainly have a working system. We're tackling a whole pile of issues to try to make them more efficient, and if that all works, certainly 5 to 10 years from now, these could be the kind of things that replace the current solar cells.
And making the tubes also uses a lot less energy. This equation means we could end up with much cheaper solar cells. And because they're more powerful, they can be used a lot smaller. Nanotube technology means solar cells could also be transparent.
In the future, rather than putting the solar cells on the roof of your house, it might just be that the panes of glass in your windows, in fact, are your solar cells.
From the smallest things, big things indeed may come.